On Saturday morning, about 6:15 in the morning, the phone rings, and I'm not a morning person. I was like, hello, and they just said, who am I talking to? And he said, well, I'm the Arizona Highway Patrol. And I'm like, oh no, what did they do now? I'm thinking they had a safety check or something. And he goes, there's been a terrible accident. And I'm like, an accident? What about Don Schirr? And he goes, well, how do you know him? And I said, he's my husband. He goes, oh, he's in critical condition. They flew him to Las Vegas. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, what about David? And they said, he's deceased. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, talk about trauma. When I got to the airport, because the cop had told me all of his injuries, okay, here's what he said. He said 5 huge lacerations to the head and face, road rash head to toe, pelvis is broken in 5 places, 5 broken ribs, and just huge gashes in his feet and legs. And he gave me this phone number, and he said, you have to ask for Trauma Chad, because they do not know his name. There's no wallet. All he had on was his underwear. He was sleeping in the sleeper when it happened. And there's no ID anywhere found. His wallet's gone. I called up and I asked for the nurse for Trauma Chad, and it was this Trinette. She was just a fabulous person. And she's like, oh, he's doing so much better. She said he was completely black when they got there, just black, and blood dry everywhere, just caked everywhere. And she said, he's got this huge hole in his buttocks. Now, what happened was he was ejected at about 70 miles an hour because the truck just rolled. There's no one else involved. And he had a degloving injury. I never heard this term. And he hit the ground so hard, his spine or his tailbone came out of his upper buttocks, punctured a hole, went back in. But what happened was it tore out a hole this big on the inside, and it was about that big on the outside. And bleeding profusely from there. That's why he had to go into surgery and all that. I got the Tranquil and Peace and Calming. I'm just constantly putting it on because I was just like, I didn't know what I was going to see. And, when I saw him, even though the pictures look bad, it was at least 50% less than what I expected. Because I've seen some pretty banged up people, and by the list of his injuries, I thought, oh my God, his beautiful hair and beard's going to be, shaved off. And, they probably should have done some of it. But, he looked pretty good compared to what I was imagining. What they said prognosis-wise was he's probably going to be in here like 6 months, and it could be 2 years rehabilitation. And the good news is it was 2 months. I mean, it seemed like a long time, 8 weeks to the day that he was in there. He was in rehab, which they told me rehab a month to 6 weeks. He was in there 3 days because of the oils, and he was just determined. Your mind is very powerful. He's very determined to get out of there.
I had to have a blood transfusion of almost 6 pints. I was just on the verge of just almost bled to death right there. And then 2, I become anemic from the transfusion. And so my energy level was nothing.
So it's been, as of today, 10 and a half months since the accident. And it's a miracle. Even the nurses can't believe it, because that Trinette that loves the oils and got involved with Young Living, I told her, she's like, how is he doing, like a week or so ago. And I said, well, you're not going to believe this, but he's actually going to be going back to work soon. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're kidding. That's a miracle. I mean, I can just see when he first came in, and he was just black, and it was so horrible. And we just thought, we weren't sure he was going to make it, So she was very excited. So Saturday we take him to the airport, and he's going to fly back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they have a truck waiting for him, and he's going to get back in it. I just start opening up. The first one I always open up is frankincense. And so I just put on there like, oh, is that essential oils? So they kind of knew. I don't know if Vegas is a in the know type of thing, but they kind of knew. And I'm like, Yeah, we use a lot of oils. Of course, I open my bags, just huge, full of oils, and they're like, that is a very good thing, So that took the pressure off. Well, then we were just lavishing on, But I even had empty capsules, not right away because he was flat on his back. You can't even swallow stuff, and you weren't even eating food at that point. But we just put a lot of oils: lavender, frankincense, helichrysum. Helichrysum is a super powerful healer and very quick acting. Of course, he was like a mummy, so the only ones we could really see were the ones on his face where there were staples and things. The other ones were just heavily wrapped. From his arms were just, he looked like a mummy. But I had a diffuser because of all of his open wounds. The biggest scare you have in hospitals, even if just a little cut, nothing even serious, is MRSA. And of course, I'm very aware of that. And Thieves Essential Oil from Young Living is known to even kill MRSA if it's present. So I had a diffuser I had in the corner, and I always 24/7 I had Thieves, or sometimes I would switch over to Christmas Spirit because I just love that smell, and the cinnamon oil in there is what's really powerful against germs. So I just kept it going all the time, and doctors of even people that weren't even Donnie's doctor, they walk by the room, they'd be, oh man, what? They'd come in the room, excuse me, but what smells so fabulous in here? And I would explain, we got these major wounds, we got to keep the germs killed, and they would be curious about it, and they're like, oh, I've heard about those, and when Donnie would get a lot of pain and anxiety, we'd use peace and calming. The pile was just huge. I had 3 of those great big 200 and some bottle oil, 3 of them stacked up there that I was working out of. Well, I have a very extensive knowledge of oils and what they do. So when I was packing to get into the, suitcase, what I'm going to need based on what I heard his injuries were, I just went alphabetically. Okay, balsam fir. That's the first one in my case. It might not be yours, but that's what I have first. Idaho balsam fir. And that's Donnie's favorite oil too. It's very calming, sedating, very good for sore muscles, whatever. Basil, that's excellent for, any kind of pain, muscular.
And cypress, I really like cypress.
Yeah,
very well.
Cypress, because it's great for anti-inflammatory and increases circulation. So I just went down the line, and I know the big power hitters: helichrysum. Of course, I did take rose. I don't know if I actually used it that much, but I did bring that. Myrrh, because myrrh is very antiseptic to cuts and wounds, and also prevents scarring and all kinds of stuff like that. But lavender, I took a couple bottles of that. Of course, I was ordering stuff as I was there too. But valerian, vetiver, frankincense, and helichrysum are a pre-surgery protocol that I think everybody should have, at least have it there, so in case somebody's going to have a surgery. Because what it does, it keeps your sympathetic nervous system from going into sympathetic override. You want to be in parasympathetic so that your white blood cell count doesn't go off the charts during surgery. And so we did that. Of course, the first one we weren't there in time, but every time, like the couple days before when we knew surgeries were scheduled, because he had 6 surgeries in 5 weeks just on this hole in his back, which, they cut it bigger. But anyway, it took 6 surgeries to finally close that wound in 5.5 weeks. But every time we would put, it smells interesting, but I would always put rutavala in there as well, because when that pre-surgery protocol was made up, rutavala wasn't in our oils. But that's excellent for the central nervous system to keep it just calm. So I put frankincense, rutavala, vetiver, valerian, and helichrysum on the back of the neck down to about T1. And even right before they brought him into pre-op. And it worked beautifully. Whenever I'm really stressed, this is a major stress, not only physically, but, emotionally. Your future is turned upside down, your husband can't work, whatever. My main one that I love for that kind of stress is brain power. because it just, whenever you have major stress, I mean, your brain has to do all the work regardless of whatever. And I put it on my brain stem. And then clarity, there's something about that smell. Well, clarity does help with stress, but I just love that. To me, it's very calming and like, okay, I can make this.
I used a lot of stress away, even myself.
Yeah.
Just put on my wrist, especially that's where I had the best results. Mm-hmm. And really helped me a lot to keep me calm even at times.
Okay, so emotionally, we had some work to do. And this new oil called neroli, very powerful in the psyche area, and it promotes peace and like a sense of like you have a future to look forward to. And I remember, because it was a brand new oil, I had no experience with it. I just read the little blurb that was on it, and I put that on Donnie, and I mean, because he was depressed. I mean, can you imagine? Depressed and probably a few other things, but he doesn't show his negative emotions very easily. So I put that on him and had him inhale it, and it was just like you could see this calming, positive. You could see it go right over his eyes. It was really powerful. That neroli was really something. So I would suggest if you got a serious trauma, that's one. Now, of course, I'm using Trauma Life and Transformation and things that I know that help with traumas. But this neroli it had a very powerful effect. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. And the other one was peace and calming. That is another big oil too that really helps, not only emotionally but even physically.
Yeah, his legs, he had like that restless leg, and he said, please put some peace and calming on my leg.
Because my legs just get to a point where you just can't, almost uncontrollable. But they rubbed my legs and put peace and calming on them, and that was my best therapy, and actually better than any medicine, even the pain I was taking.
And ortho-ease, we did a lot of ortho-ease and ortho sport. His whole legs, because he had this huge hole in his back, which you think would hurt, and he never complained about that. It was just his legs, just the pain, because I'm sure the nerves were cut, going to his legs. But if we didn't have those massage oils, I don't know what we would have done.
Well, if it hasn't been for my wife and the oils, and my mother-in-law being there with me, I probably wouldn't be here today, because they were my two angels. But the oils that we have, and the oils I took internally, as much as I took externally, that I feel helped me more inside, because it kept me going, and it helped me with my pain, especially like valerian. I mean, it helped me tremendously, because I was taking at least a capsule of valerian at least every day. And then I think we got up to at least like 80 to 100 drops of oil I was taking internally. And that kept me healing from the inside. And of course, especially with the problems I had outside of my body, but the oils really helped me a lot, and the encouragement that my wife, my mother-in-law give me each day, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be at today. And in fact, I'd probably still be in the hospital today if it wasn't for them.
Or worse.
Yes, or worse.
No, the oils that I gave him, and I was right out in the open. The nurses would see me fill up these capsules and put them in this little, I had Monday to Friday thing, or Sunday to Saturday, sorry. And I put 20 drops, because a capsule will hold 20 drops. 20 of each valerian, vetiver, balsam fir, frankincense. That's 80 drops a day, and he put it in there. In fact, twice a day he would take those capsules, and they knew, with all the drugs he was taking, they knew, and they never balked at it. So the healing that those oils did on the inside has to be tremendous. I mean, you can see in the pictures, in 12 days he went from amazingly horrible blood and all kinds of staples and everything to it almost looked like he was just sleepy looking. It's very powerful. When I was packing and putting all the oils together, of course, very foundational to our health is the nutrition that we take, and Young Living provides supplements that have oils already built into them, so they work better. The blood absorption is at least 50 to 60% higher. So Donnie's used to, on a regular basis, taking the supplement program that we have, and the number one thing, because I knew he wouldn't have to swallow a pill, was Ninja Red. So I had like a pack, 100 of those Ninja Red individual packages, and of course he loves it anyways, and he would ask for it. So he would take at a minimum of 2 of them a day, sometimes more. He would just ask for more. The other thing, BLM, it stands for bone, ligament, muscle. I definitely knew he had to have that in order to have the building blocks to rebuild, connective tissue and muscles and bones and ligaments. You're throwing out like that, you're going to have some damage. I knew the damage was there. And sulfurzyme is an MSM product, and he's used to taking that on a regular basis too for skin. Maybe that's one of the reasons the skin healed so quickly.
Yeah, because they said, with my wounds I healed very fast.
They would talk about
this
it.
was a big contributor to that, I think. It really was.
Yeah, the MSM, the sulfurzyme. And then another thing, when you're sedentary, I knew you would have to be in bed with a broken pelvis. Comfort Tone. It has, the peristaltic action in the colon, because when you don't walk or move or whatever, that's very hard on the system. And so constipation is with drugs alone is a constipation factor. So we did a lot of Comfort Tone. Anybody that came in the room, I had the Thieves hand sanitizer and the Thieves spray. And of course they love the smell of it, but when they came in, I'm like, you have to use this, I'm sorry, but this is what they have that Perel thing on the wall, but I'm like, no, you got to use this one if you're going to touch him. So we would have everybody use that hand sanitizer. And then if anybody coughed or sneezed, I would spray the spray, even though I had the diffuser going. I know it was a little over the top, but man, we made it that whole time, 8 weeks straight, with not even an infection or a bacteria. MRSA, forget that. So, that alone's a miracle. But that 9 Everyday Oils kit, if you have never experienced Young Living, that is really the greatest place to start, I think, because then you're prepared. If something happens, you have something to deal with it. It's a beautiful thing.
At least you got the basics to start with, the basic oils. Because those 9 oils by itself, you can just about do anything you want to with them.
Yeah.
One of them will work. And going back to what she said about the Valor, because that's one of my favorite oils, because every morning, that's the first thing I do. I put a couple, 3 drops in my hand, and I just kind of go clockwise to get the energy built, electricity energy built up in it, and I put on the bottom of my feet. Because then I just feel the energy. It just goes up through me. And I love that.
It smells wonderful.
And it gets me going. That's kind of the start of my day. But that's very, very good. That's one of my favorite oils is Valor.
Thankfully, about 12 years ago, somebody introduced me to Young Living therapeutic grade essential oils. And I had not therapeutic grade oils. I had some. I really didn't believe in them because I never saw any quote unquote healings done. They smelled good. It didn't have toxic chemicals like perfumes and things, but I didn't have a belief in them. But I saw some pretty profound healings take place with the Young Living, and that I couldn't deny. I was like, there has to be something different because the results are different.